I want to thank my patron supporters who are helping me to make more videos more often. If you'd like to become a patron supporter, please go to patreon.com/TJR, the original. Thank you for watching this video. Hey everybody, this is TJR. The other week I posted a video where I asked everybody to leave a comment and name their top 3 favorite movies of all time, plus one wildcard movie. And the response was amazing, and it was fun to read. I read every single comment. In fact, I felt like I could have done a video where all I did was read everybody's top 3 movies and comment on each one. But we'd be here forever if I did that. So, as promised in that last video, I said I would follow up and talk about my 3 favorite movies of all time, plus my wildcard movie. So this is that video. So before we get started, let me just state the following. My top 3 favorite movies of all time are all critically acclaimed movies. However, my wildcard is not. I'm not going to name them in any order, such as 3, 2, 1, like in order of preference. I will just name them in order of release date. And as it turns out, my wildcard movie is the most recent. I should also add that for decades, my top 3 favorite movies of all time has remained unchanged. These 3 movies have been in the top of my list now, I'm going to guess probably maybe for the last 20 years or so. I don't know if I'm ever going to see anything else that will replace this top 3. By the way, I want to add that I'm not telling you that these are the 3 greatest movies of all time. I am sharing with you my personal 3 favorite movies of all time. Your personal 3 favorite movies of all time are just as valid as mine. Okay, let's get to it. From 1939, The Wizard of Oz, directed by Victor Fleming, with uncredited directing by the following: George Cukor, Mervyn LeRoy, Norman Taurog, hopefully I've said that correctly, Richard Thorpe, and King Vidor, or perhaps it's pronounced Vidor, I'm not sure which. And of course, starring Judy Garland. I honestly cannot count the number of times I have seen this movie. I grew up in a generation where there was no internet, no cable TV, no home video rentals, and The Wizard of Oz was broadcasted annually on CBS TV every year. As such, watching this film was a yearly family event, as it was for a lot of families before the advent of cable TV and the internet. From start to finish, this is still one of the most perfect movies I have ever seen. Every song is melodic perfection or near melodic perfection. Every bit of comedy is perfectly timed. And Judy Garland's performance of Over the Rainbow is one of the most beautiful and enduring musical performances I have ever heard in my life. Also, for a movie that is over 70 years old, it's astounding how many of its special effects still hold up even now. With its emphasis on fantasy combined with action and comedy and themes of overcoming inner weakness to find the hero within, The Wizard of Oz holds a lot more in common with today's high-tech superhero blockbusters than I think a lot of people probably realize. Next is 2001, A Space Odyssey from 1968, directed by Stanley Kubrick and starring Keira Delay and Gary Lockwood. Growing up as a kid, one of my older brothers had this paperback entitled The Making of 2001: A Space Odyssey. This book went into great detail about how the film was made and featured a ton of black and white photographs. As a kid, I pored over this book endlessly and was blown away even by the book's still black and white images. I quickly became obsessed with watching this movie. The only problem was that I couldn't watch it. Remember, I grew up in the days of no cable and no internet and no movie rentals. After a movie showed in theaters, that was it. Unless it showed up on TV, you weren't going to get to see it. And 2001 wouldn't premiere on broadcast TV till many years later. Finally, during my early teenage years, the movie would get a small theatrical re-release, and I was there. I walked in with high expectations and I wasn't disappointed. When I walked out, I felt like I had just seen the greatest movie in the world and that I would probably never see anything like it ever again. After over 50 years, it's still one of the most visually stunning movies I have ever watched. 2001: A Space Odyssey asks you to question how we define God and creation and where our place in the universe is. And over 50 years later, it's still asking me these questions, and I'm still trying to find the answers. From 1984, Amadeus, directed by Milos Forman and starring Tom Hulce as Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Now, I know that large parts of this movie are fictionalized, but I do not care. There is a lot that I could say about this film, but I want to center on just 2 points. One of my common complaints about musical biopics is that so little of the film is actually centered on the artist's music. Amadeus puts the artist and his music front and center. But more importantly, it demonstrates why the music of Mozart is genius. And after watching this movie, I never heard his music the same way again.
He had simply written down music already finished in his head. Page after page of it, as if he were just taking dictation.
Based on the 1979 stage play, this film came to me at just the right time in my life, with just the right message that I needed to hear. And I do have to wonder sometimes what kind of person I might have become without it. The film tells the story of 2 composers and a rivalry that only exists between one of them. Growing up as a young musician in the early 1980s, I was very prone to jealousy. Jealousy of the talents of others whom I knew were better than me. To a great extent, this movie acted as a kind of ghost of Christmas future, showing me how deadly jealousy could be to the human soul, how it could consume you and eventually destroy you.
Is it not good?
It is miraculous.
After watching Amadeus, I knew that I didn't want to end up being that way. And from then on, every time I felt jealousy towards another musician, I told myself, no, don't feel jealousy. Instead, feel inspiration to work that much harder. Use that inspiration to be that much better. So those are my 3 favorite movies of all time. And now it's time for my wild card. 3. The animated movie, Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, directed by Eric Radomski and Bruce Timm, and starring the voice of Kevin Conroy as Batman. For a long time, if anybody asked me what I thought was the best Batman movie, I would always answer Mask of the Phantasm. And pretty much everybody that I responded to would look at me and say, Mask of the what? Mask of the Phantasm was released in 1993 and was a movie spin-off of the Emmy Award-winning Batman the Animated TV series. At the time of its release, Mask of the Phantasm was different from any other American animated movie that had existed before it. It had no funny animal characters, no musical numbers, and it ended tragically. Okay, I guess you could say that Bambi ended tragically, but that film ultimately ends with the message that life moves on and that new families replace our loss. But in Mask of the Phantasm, there is no hopeful finale. There is just the tragedy and loss gained by personal decisions that once made can never be taken back. It's classic Hollywood melodrama at its best.
Quite a sight.
By the way, if you ask me now what is the best Batman movie ever made, it's kind of a toss-up between Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight and Mask of the Phantasm. By the way, as I began working on this video, there was so much more I wanted to say about each film, but then this would be a much longer video than you're currently watching. It kind of got me thinking that maybe I would do a series of videos called My Favorite Movies of All Time, where I would discuss films like this in more detail. Let me know what you think about that, and let me know if you'd like to see those types of videos on this channel. As always, if you like what I'm doing, be sure to click a like, click subscribe, and smash that bell notification icon so you can know when I release new videos. By the way, if you didn't get a chance to list your top 3 movies plus your wild card in the last video, be sure to list them in this video, because I'm really going to look forward to reading more of your top 3 movies of all time. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all stay safe and healthy. Take care. Bye-bye.